Welcome back to the channel, where real emotions meet life-changing moments. It was nearly midnight when Daniel parked his car outside the grocery store. The rain had just stopped, leaving the streets cold and shining under the streetlights. He was exhausted. Between working 2 jobs and raising his 7-year-old daughter, Emma, alone, sleep had become a luxury. As he walked past the alley beside the store, something made him stop. A figure was curled up under a thin, dirty blanket, shivering, motionless. Daniel wasn't a stranger to hardship. He knew what desperation looked like. But when the wind lifted the edge of the blanket, he saw a face he never expected to see again. His heart stopped. "Lena?" he whispered. The woman slowly opened her eyes. It was her. The same woman who had walked out on him and their daughter 3 years ago. The same woman who said she needed freedom. The same woman who left without looking back. But this wasn't the Lena he remembered. Her once bright eyes were hollow. Her hair, once carefully styled, was tangled and dull. Her hands trembled, not from the cold alone, but from something deeper. Daniel felt anger rise in his chest. Memories flooded back. The night she packed her bags. Emma crying at the door. The silence that followed for months. "You don't get to do this," Daniel said quietly, his voice shaking. "You don't get to disappear, and then show up like this." Lena tried to sit up but winced in pain. "I didn't come back," she said weakly. I never meant for you to see me like this." Daniel should have walked away. He should have protected his heart. But instead, he took off his jacket and placed it over her shoulders. "Why are you here?" he asked. Lena looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in years. And then she said something that made the world feel like it was collapsing around him. "I didn't leave because I didn't love you. I left because someone threatened Emma." Daniel froze. "What are you talking about?" Tears streamed down Lena's face as she whispered. "They said if I didn't disappear, they would hurt her." The rain began falling again. And for the first time in 3 years, Daniel didn't know what to believe. Was this another lie? Or had the woman he hated sacrificed everything to protect their child? He clenched his fists, fighting the storm inside him. "Start talking," he said, and Lena took a shaky breath, ready to reveal the truth that would change everything. The rain grew heavier. Daniel stood frozen, staring at Lena as her words echoed in his mind. "They said they would hurt Emma." "Who said that?" Daniel demanded, his voice low but shaking. Lena swallowed hard. "Your former business partner, Marcus." The name hit Daniel like a punch. 3 years ago, Daniel had invested everything into a small construction company with his childhood friend. When the company collapsed, Marcus blamed Daniel for reporting financial irregularities. They hadn't spoken since. "You're lying," Daniel said instinctively. "Marcus wouldn't. He came to me," Lena interrupted, "the night before I left. He said if you didn't withdraw the complaint, if you didn't stop the investigation, accidents could happen." Daniel's chest tightened. Back then, strange things had happened. A car following Emma's school bus for weeks. Anonymous calls that hung up when he answered. A brick thrown through their living room window. He had thought it was random. He had thought it was stress. "I didn't tell you because he warned me not to," Lena whispered. "He said if I involved you, he'd know, and he'd make it worse." "So you thought abandoning your daughter was the solution?" Daniel snapped. Tears streamed down her face. "I thought if I disappeared, he would lose leverage. He said you'd stop the complaint if you thought I left on my own. And you did." Daniel's mind spun. He had withdrawn the complaint, not because of fear, but because he was drowning in single fatherhood and couldn't afford a legal war. He looked at Lena, really looked at her. Her clothes were worn thin, her hands scarred. She looked like someone who had been surviving, not living. "What happened to you?" he asked more quietly. "At first, I stayed with a friend in another city," she said. "But Marcus kept finding me. Messages, threats. I moved again and again. Couldn't keep a job. I couldn't stay anywhere long." Daniel felt something shift inside him. This wasn't the selfish woman who walked away chasing freedom. This was someone who had been running alone. "For 3 years?" he asked. Lena nodded. "I watched Emma from a distance twice," she admitted. "From across the street. She looked happy. You were doing a good job." Daniel's throat tightened. "You don't get to watch her like a stranger," he said. But there was less anger now, only pain. Suddenly, headlights flashed at the end of the alley. A black SUV slowed down. Daniel's stomach dropped. Lena's face went pale. "That's his car," she whispered. The engine idled. The window slowly rolled down. Daniel stepped in front of Lena without thinking. For the first time in years, he wasn't just a single dad fighting exhaustion. He was a father protecting his family. And whoever was inside that SUV had just made a mistake. The black SUV's engine growled in the rain. Daniel's heart pounded as the driver's window rolled down halfway. A familiar voice called out from the darkness. "Well, look at this." Marcus, older, colder, smiling like nothing had ever touched him. Daniel stepped forward, shielding Lena behind him. "What do you want?" Daniel demanded. Marcus leaned his elbow on the window frame. "Relax. I was just checking on an old friend." Lena trembled behind Daniel. "You said you'd leave them alone." Marcus laughed softly. "I said I would, if you stayed gone." Daniel's blood ran cold. "So it's true," he said quietly. "You threatened my daughter." Marcus's smile faded. "Just slightly. Careful with accusations." Daniel took a step closer to the SUV. "For 3 years," Daniel said, voice steady now. "You made her live like this?" Marcus's eyes shifted between them. "You should have minded your business back then. Some paperwork would have disappeared. We all would have been rich." "You stole from families," Daniel snapped. "You cut corners on buildings. People could have died." "And nobody did," Marcus replied calmly. "But you tried to ruin me." The rain poured harder. Lena clutched Daniel's jacket tightly. "Please, don't provoke him." Marcus's gaze sharpened. "Here's what's going to happen," he said. "You forget this little reunion ever happened. She disappears again. And your daughter continues living her happy little life." Daniel felt something inside him snap. For years he had blamed Lena. For years he carried anger. But now the truth was standing right in front of him. "You picked the wrong family," Daniel said quietly. Marcus smirked. "You don't have power anymore." Daniel slowly reached into his pocket. Marcus stiffened. Daniel pulled out his phone and pressed a button. "I started recording when you rolled that window down." Marcus's expression changed. "And before you showed up," Daniel continued, "I called someone." In the distance, faint sirens began to echo. Marcus's jaw tightened. "You wouldn't." "I already did," Daniel said. 3 years ago, Daniel might have backed down. But not tonight. Not when his daughter's safety was on the line. Red and blue lights reflected off the wet pavement as 2 police cars turned the corner. Marcus cursed under his breath and slammed the SUV into gear. The tires screeched as the vehicle sped away into the night. The officers stopped beside Daniel. "Everything all right here?" one asked. Daniel looked at Lena. For the first time in years, she wasn't running. "No," Daniel said firmly. "But it's about to be." He handed the officer his phone, and Lena began telling them everything. As the police took notes, Daniel realized something. The storm outside was fading. But the real storm, the one that had torn his family apart, was finally facing the light. He looked at Lena. "This isn't over," he said. She nodded. "But maybe it's a new beginning."